Hello and welcome to this TRIRIGA presentation for triapp-location-context UX application component. My name is Eric Takahashi. I am a software developer on IBM TRIRIGA team. Here is the agenda for this presentation. I will start with an introduction and then explain how it works, component data sources, component setup, and I'll finish with a live demo. Triapp-location-context is an application component that sets a location context for the user currently logged in. Here are two examples of the component. In first instance, the component will attempt to get the user closest location, and this is made by a platform component called triapp-search-location that requires the user geolocation. So here are two examples of Chrome and Firefox browsers asking for the user location permission. And at this point, the user can choose whether to allow the browser geolocation or not. If the user chooses to share the location, the component will set the closest building as the location context. So you can see the message here that the location was detected and set a location context. Triapp location can only search for buildings with a valid geoposition values. So in order for this detection to work, the buildings in the system should have values for latitude and longitude. So here is this building and we can see both values set, and without that the component cannot detect this location. In case the component cannot locate a building next to the user location, it will attempt to get the user primary location, and same thing happens when the user chooses to not share the location. So here is the message that it was not possible to detect a location, and the user primary location was set as a location context. It could happen the case when there's not a close building and a primary location. Here is what happened in this case. The component allows to select a different location by clicking on the Change Location link that will call TriBlock Search pop-up component to search for the desired building. So here's the TriBlock Search pop-up component. The search can be made by building name or city. In this example, Las Vegas City was used. The search string will be marked in bold in the search results. Here's the search string, and in the results we can see in bold. Once the building is selected, the pop-up will close and the new location will be displayed. The last location set is stored in the browser local storage. This means that the location context can be carried on through other pages. The location will remain in the storage until the next time the user logs into the system. Every time the user logs in to the app, the location storage is reset, so the component will again do the cycle of redetecting the location. Triplet location context component works with some data sources. The first one, building lookup, will provide us a list of buildings for the search. The buildings for search location will provide the buildings for triplet search location component, and this one will filter the list based on the user geolocation. The current user is the current user logged, and the parent building is the user primary location. You can use the following attributes to set up the component. have a couple of attributes, and I'll cover all of them in the next slides. This is the basic use of the component. You can just use the triapp-location-context tag, and this is the result we got. The search title and the search placeholder attributes change respectively the title and the placeholder text inside the search pop-up. The hide message attribute hides the upper message. The label attribute sets a text label on the top. The change location type attribute changes the change location button. The default value is link, so I will return to the previous slide. Here is the link, change location link, and if we set the icon, we will see an icon button. The regular font size attribute changes the style of the location text. So this is the default one, and this is the regular one. The image width and image height attributes set the specified dimensions for the image. So in this example, I set dimensions of 45 pixels for the image. The no image attribute removes the image. The disable attribute disables the change location, so in this case it's not possible to select another location. The override building ID attribute can be used to override the building initially set by the component. So instead of setting the nearby or primary location, the component will set the override building as the location context. So in this example, I use a radio button to set an override building, and this is the building set as a location context. The location search threshold distance attribute is the radius in meters of a circle around the position of the user where the locations can be found. This is actually used by triplet search location to detect nearby locations. So I can change the threshold distance, and with a defined value, the component cannot detect any location. And if you increase this value, the component can now detect a nearby location. When the user selects a building, the component fires an event called location change. With this event, it's possible to get the selected building and use it outside of the component. So in this example, when the event is fired, this function is called, and if there is a building, the alert will be displayed. Now I'll show you a live demo of the content I just presented. The first example is the basic setup. Here is the code for that. It's just the component tag, and here's what we see on the browser. The second example is the search title attribute. So we set the search title to this string custom title. Here is the code, and the result for that is this one, custom title here. Next example is the placeholder text. We set the search placeholder attribute here, and the result is this one, custom placeholder. And then hide message, if we take a look at the previous one, we have this message here, and with hide message attribute, the message is hidden. And to do that, we just have to add this attribute. Next is the label attribute. So a label string will appear above. And to do that, we just have to use the label attribute. Next is the change location type attribute. So as I mentioned before, the link is the default value. So here's the link in the previous example. And for this one, I set the icon, and here's the icon. So we can click here to change the location. And the code for that is this one. You just have to use the change location property with the icon value. Next is the regular font size attribute. Just have to add this attribute here, and we'll see this as result. We can compare it with the previous example to see the difference. Same thing for the image width and image height property attributes. We can see the difference in the images, and the code for that is this one. I set a dimension of 45 pixels for the image, and the result is this one. Next example is the no image. So if we use the no image attribute, we won't see any image here in the component. And there is the disabled attribute. So just use this attribute, and with that, the change location button and link is not available, and so we cannot change the location in this case. Next example is the override building. So for this example, I use these radio buttons to change the building ID. So here is the code. I use the paper radio group, and in the triapp-location-context component, we can use this attribute and force a different building here. So in this case, I use just these two as example. So I'll click this first one, and then I change the location context. So with override building ID, we can change the location context to a different one without searching. Next example is the threshold distance. So to use that, we just have to set the location served threshold distance attribute and set a specific distance here. So if you take a look here, the component was not able to detect the location. So I'll change that value. The current value is 100. I will increase this number so we can see location detect. I'll save the change and refresh the page. And now that the page is refreshed, I will scroll down to the threshold distance section, and here we can see that a location was detected, so we can work with this attribute to change the distance so the component can detect a nearby location. For the last example, I want to show you the fired event. So here is the code. I'm listening for the location changed event, and then we'll call this function. We'll take a look at this function. If we change the building, it will display an alert message. So let me do that. I'll try to change the location. Search for a building, and then I will select this one. And we see the alert message here. So this is the event fire example, and I have one more example to show is a couple of properties together, so it will be more easy to see them in action. So the search title is here, and placeholder I can change them. So if I take a look at the result, the string reflects now what I set here. And same thing for label. So if I just start type, we can see the result here. I can hide the message, set regular font size, no image. I can disable the change location, change the location type. I have link as default. I can change to icon, and override building. So and that concludes this presentation. Thanks for watching.